Hey everybody, welcome back to X Church Lab's Parenting Through the Phases. So excited that you guys have joined us for week number 3 of Parenting Through the Phases. It's been great so far to start the countdown, to understand what that looks like, to have as many marbles as you possibly can, to take the most advantage of you possibly can with your time. And then of course last week we heard from Pastor Jesse on what that looks like, to be intentional about the phases that they go through, the questions that they're asking, and how you can be a part of, be active in each and every phase. Now I want to talk about what we can do inside of each and every one of those phases by making each week matter. You can literally make history 1 week at a time if you do it intentionally. So I really want to walk through this with you guys, and I want a little bit of feedback from you guys. So I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions about your childhood and really try to drive home the point of making history 1 week at a time, because let's be honest, there's never been a time, there's never been a lesson, there's never been something that's happened. We just talked about a couple moments ago, my wife and I got a new puppy. If the puppy goes to the bathroom in the house, you don't say no once, put it outside, and then you never have to deal with that again. It is a lesson that has to continually be taught, and that happens through almost every phase that we're talking about. And honestly, the underlying thing that we're talking about is consistency. So I want to ask you guys some questions about when you were growing up. One of the ones that I wrote down was, what is the happiest memory that you have as a child? Not everybody at once. I mean, I don't want to, we only have a limited amount of time. Anybody have just a happy memory from when they were a kid?
For me, it was playing sports and, large family gatherings.
Yeah. So large family gatherings, playing sports, and a lot of that has to do with camaraderie. Playing sports, again, it's a thing that happens over a period of time, right, Justin? There's you don't just show up day one of the games and the coach pushes you in and you get to do what you need to do. It is a constant and continual thing. Same thing with large family gatherings. Like, a family doesn't get large overnight. It happens over years and years of time. So a lot of those things, and if you were to ask yourself, maybe pause this video for a quick second and just ask yourself, what was one of your favorite childhood memories growing up? It might come around something that has to do with happiness, has to do with joy. It doesn't necessarily have to do with a momentary flash in the pan, but something that was brought over time. Here's another one, and honestly, we can't go through a parenting anything without hearing this question. What did your parents used to say all the time when you were a kid that you swore that you would never, ever say when you became a parent?
But did anyway.
But did anyway. Yes.
I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Stop crying, or I'm going to give you something to cry about. Again, a great life lesson.
You're going to sit at the table till you finish that.
Janine, that's a great one as well. I remember sitting at the table multiple times, having to finish a glass of milk, and I hated milk, and it was like warm, and then it starts curdling. Anyway, sorry to go way too detailed on that. But yeah, there's something that just happens where it's like, I'm never going to say that to my kids when I grow up. And then you do, I'll pull this car over, you know what I mean? And those are the moments that honestly you remember. You remember the journey to the vacation, maybe not necessarily even the vacation. A lot of the family vacations that we took when I was a kid, I don't remember the destination so much. I remember the car trip. I remember trying to fit 6 people inside of a car in a weird, awkward way. You know what I mean? Try to get as much space as you can. Try to figure out how to get your brother or your sister in trouble by making them snap. You know what I mean? In a big way. And then, what story have you heard over and over again that your parents say nonstop? And this is one that I just want you to internalize. If there was a question, a story, an article, a memory from when your parents worked at this place or the factory or this town or the farm or whatever it might be, there maybe is a story that they talk about your family, where your name came from, where your grandfather used to work, whatever it might be. And if you remember those times, you really begin to understand what it looks like to make history 1 week at a time, because you've heard that story so many times from sitting at the breakfast table with your grandma that you just begin to understand where you came from. So making history 1 week at a time, there are 6 different components that I want to talk about today that really, really make sense. And don't let this overwhelm you. There's so many resources that we have, and I want to share just a couple of them with you. We've got books We'll put the books and the links to the videos. Again, the Parent Q app for our X-Kids ministry is a great one. You can get all the resources that are uploaded through our ministry. It'll give you the countdown, so you can, whenever you log on, it'll tell you exactly how many weeks you have left without having to divide 52 weeks and the 12 months and all the things. You can literally just know at a glimpse how many weeks you have left. It really makes it absolutely simple. There's also books for what it looks like for your kid to walk through each phase of their life, and some really, really good pointers and resources for you to do that. But today, talking about making history 1 week at a time, I've got 6 things that each and every one of us can do to help this experience go a little bit better. But let's just be honest, none of us have nailed this, and you're going to feel a little bit of guilt through some of these, no doubt about it. But let me just tell you, even before we start, you're doing way better than what you think you are. Congratulations, you're doing way better than you think you are. We don't know the conversations that you had behind closed doors. We don't understand the guilt or all the things that you worry about when it comes to parenting. These are just some obvious things. I didn't read your emails. I don't maybe know you personally or some of the things that you're struggling with, but I do want to just encourage you, by making history 1 week at a time, you can literally change the trajectory of your kid's life through the phase that they're going through right now. No matter what phase it was, no matter what phase that Pastor Jesse talked about during last week, we have the opportunity to do this. So the very first one that I want to talk about is love. You can love your kid in every phase of their life, but the way that they love is going to be modeled after the way that you show them love. What are you doing to actively show them love when they are driving you nuts? Like I just mentioned, the puppy peeing in the house. Even if you're like, no, you put the dog outside, it comes back in, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're the cutest little puppy ever. You know what I mean? And honestly, our kids are the exact same way. You know what I mean? We can't hold grudges for long. If we punish our kids, we know that they go into timeout or they do their whatever it is, and they come back, and it's like, oh, there you are. You know what I mean? They will receive love. They will give love the way that we give and receive love from them and to them. What are you doing to love your kid through this phase? Oh, Pastor Rick, there's not much that I can do. My kid's an infant. Trust me, you can have whispers of love to them that they don't understand what it's talking about, but just the sheer calming voice of their mother or their father, you can see that through every phase of their life. So what are you doing to love them? Number 2, this was the one that probably will bring up a little bit of guilt in everybody's life, but words. Our kids learn their vocabulary through us. What are you doing to affirm? What are you doing to tear down? What are you doing to see the comments that are on the report card that they talk too much, or they do this or they do that? Let's be honest, all of the words that we use, our kids learn every phase of that. If we get frustrated because they're doing this, guess what? When that happens to them, they're going to have the exact same frustration that we have. But let me just also say, congratulations, you've made it this far. You're doing great. Your kids are amazing. But maybe there's something that you can do with your words to speak kinder, to show them who God is, to begin to speak the words that are on the Parent Q app in our X-Kids ministry, that the take-homes that they take away from ministry each and every week. What can we do to continually emphasize those words in our kids' lives? The third one is stories. I mentioned this before. What kind of stories are we going to pass down to our kids? What are you going to talk about about the grandparents? What are you going to talk about with you at your job? Is it always going to be a stressor? Is it always going to be the thing that you're on your wits end and you can't wait till the week ends just so that you can have one day by yourself so you don't have to worry about the thing? Or can you walk home today and understand this was a blessing? Hey, I got to do this today. Hey, you know what? The day was crazy, but man, there was little shimmers of hope in each and every one of those things. What stories are we going to share with our kids that they're going to sit in a parenting class 50 years from now and raise their hand and say, man, I remember my grandma telling me this story about my grandpa and how he was just the kindest guy that you've ever said. What are they going to write on your tombstone kind of questions? And not to be morbid or anything like that, but there's an opportunity that we have with our words to instill in our kids great things. The vocabulary, the vernacular that they're going to use on a regular basis is instilled through us over time. 1 week at a time. What are we going to do this week to instill words into our kids' lives? The next one is fun. Do we have enough fun? Let's be honest, there's never enough time for fun, and fun is always the last thing that we want to do. We want to make sure that we get the house clean. We want to make sure that we get the chores done. We want to make sure that we get everybody situated so that they can go to baseball practice and basketball practice and cheerleading and all the things. But at the end of the day, are we really making time for fun, or are they already bogged down with a crazy busy schedule? I mean, let's be honest, some of our kids, and I'm super guilty of this, some of our kids are young and they already know that they don't have time. They already know that every second of every day is planned out. They don't have the opportunity to go fall down in the mud in the backyard. They don't have the opportunity to go climb a tree or get dirty or do whatever it is. And what are you doing intentionally about making fun with them? Can you make the mundane things of life fun? Do you have the opportunity to crack a joke or tickle or do the things that literally set them on fire with laughter? Can you act goofy in the middle of a grocery store when everybody else is looking, like the story that Pastor Jesse said about his son's clothes being backwards? Man, make that fun. Put your shirt on backwards and roll with it. You know what I mean? It seems absolutely goofy, but man, honestly, I would be inspired if I saw somebody walking through the grocery store doing that with their kid, just like, hey, look at this kid, man. He's asking the I am questions and he's killing it. Like that, there's just something about that makes me bubble up and even gives me goosebumps right now just thinking about what we can do just with the simple word of fun through our kids' lives, through each story and phase. The next one is work. The work ethic. No doubt about it, I don't want to cut out all of the things to make sure that we have work, but what responsibilities are you giving your kids? Do they have chores? Do they do laundry? Do they do dishes? Do they do things? Do they take the trash out? Do they fill in the blank with whatever that looks like inside of your home? My mom never let us do a lot of the important chores, but we did all of the small chores. And we had to make sure that we had lists. We had to make sure that we got them done right. And if we didn't do them right, we had to do them over and over again until they were right. And honestly, that just instilled in me a perfectionist mentality to where sometimes I feel cursed by that now, because every time I want to make sure that no matter how big or small the job is, I want to make sure that it's done right. Or are we trying to protect our kid where maybe they are having too much fun to where they don't understand that there's also responsibilities that come along with this? You see, of course, that depends on the phase of life that your child is in. You know, don't make your 3-year-old start doing dishes. But at the same time, is your 16-year-old doing anything? Are they contributing to a family aspect where we're relying on them and they're relying on us? It's not just a one-way street. This is an opportunity for conversation where they are a part of the family. And the very last one is something that will happen over time. This is one of the hot words that are being used in our society now, but it's a tribe. Are your kids a part of a tribe? Do they have a close-knit group of people? Do you introduce adults, other adults, into the conversations with your kids? At one time or another, there's going to come a time where your kids don't necessarily care about your opinions. I hate to break that to you, but they're going to care about the opinions of every other adult that's around them. When they find their first job and they begin to understand what that dynamic looks like. And now us as parents, we're no longer in the picture in that way to be able to protect them. Are we teaching them what a tribe looks like to go, man, you have people that support you. You have people that can give you wisdom. You have people that can give you all kinds of gratitude, all kinds of enthusiasm, encouragement, things that every kid needs. But again, if it's just coming from one location, man, when they get into middle school, when they get into high school and beyond, their tribes are so important. I've said this to my son a million times over. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. What are we doing to instill healthy tribes into our kids? You see, these are simple things that we can take each and every week to literally make history during those times. Each phase is unique. Each opportunity is unique. So what can we do individually as parents to make history one week at a time?